You've still got a minute before you come off mute.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. I saw his mercy and grace unfold. I hunger and thirst. I hunger and
Coming off mute.
with arms stretched wide, I know you hear my cry. Speak to me now. Speak to me now. I surrender. I surrender.
Welcome out to the Protestant Sunshine. Thank you for joining us for our Bible hour. Why don't we find our seats this morning? I want to sing this song. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. My there is pain from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Why don't we stand? Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. My debt was paid from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Brother Kenny, could you open us up in a word of prayer?
Amen. Great to see you in Adult Sunday School this morning. We're looking at the issue of kingdom prosperity, and we've spent a few weeks, 2 weeks now, on the subject of poverty. We're looking at the issue of prosperity, kingdom prosperity. Prosperity is a thriving or growing condition. That is a dictionary meaning, especially as it concerns finances. And so we are really saying that prosperity is good. Prosperity is good. Prosperity is God's will. And therefore, what is the path to arriving at that? Prosperity is not about having lots of money per se, just like poverty is not about having no money. But it's a condition. It's the way that we view finances and money, and God wants you to have more than enough. He wants you to have more than you need for today. It's not God's will that you're behind and in debt and struggling, and it's not God's will that you will not be able financially to do what you need to do. And it's also not God's will that you're just, living with the ceiling here, and you're living paycheck to paycheck and barely survive year on year. That's not God's will. And when we talk about poverty, let's clarify again, we're not talking about circumstantial poverty, where you've gone through, you've smashed the car and the cat's broken its leg, and you've got an unusual bill and it's taken you back to zero for a while, or you've lost your job for a bit. That can be recovered from. We're talking about poverty, generational poverty. We're talking about poverty mindset. And so we looked at a couple of weeks ago that poverty starts in the mind. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So the way you think is what you become. And so then we looked at poverty mindsets. We talked about a victim mentality. If you want to know whether you have a poverty mindset, do you have a victim mentality? Is it you don't have anything because the boss is evil, because the government is evil, because certain governments have been elected on? That's your problem. That's why you have no money. And so I'll never recover because it's someone else's fault. Then there's an entitlement mentality. If I'm ever going to have money, someone needs to give me some. They have lots, I have none. They should give me some. And so somehow it's an entitlement mentality. And we talked about poverty involves fear. If money involves an emotional response from you, it's a fear issue, then you have a poverty mentality. If it's involving envy, what someone else has, you should have, why should they have it, not me, etc., etc., that is a poverty mindset. And so this is we'll finish this theme today in poverty about poverty mindsets, because we need to discover and know, is this in me, or to what degree is it in me? And so we're going to continue to look at this idea, the ways of thinking that stop us from prospering. And let's have our series text, 3 John verse 2.
Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers.
Okay, this is God's will. Our prayer and my prayer for you is that you'll prosper, that you'll do well, that you'll have victory, that you'll have a job that pays more than enough, that you'll have a budget, that you understand that it pays more than enough, and the way to get victory and live so that you're not, that money is not creating arguments and problems or fear or turmoil or stress, but you have more than enough, and that is the way you ought to live in prosperity. One problem in people's lives is that we accept poverty. We accept the fact that we have a lack of abundance, and some people have accommodating theologies for that. We're going to talk about that. Poverty becomes more than a condition when we accept it. It becomes a spirit. When we accept lack and poverty as a normal state of life, it becomes a spirit in us. It's the way we think and feel. And some people have experienced poverty for so long, and that's all they've seen. That's the way they live. It's the way they view finances. It's the way they view themselves. It's the way they view the clothes they wear, what they spend, how they spend, the way they feel about money. And they accept it as a normal state of life. And so a poverty mentality lives in denial. They comfort themselves with excuses for their poverty. When you talk to them about their finances, that's just the way I am. It's just the way it is. Everyone has debts, really. Other people are experiencing the same thing. Everyone at work talks about this, and so somehow, because everyone at work talks about it, it's okay. That's just the way everyone is. That's just the way it is here. And again, they just accept that because of that's the way it's been, that's the way it ought to be, and they accommodate that. And then We talked in the last couple of weeks about the idea that people would say, well, maybe it's spiritual. I'm just trusting God. I just rely on God's provision. Or make other accommodating theologies. So a poverty spirit then rejects the idea of abundance. And listen, this series is not promising you $1 million by this Tuesday, all right? That's not what this is about. But the idea that God will supply your needs and He is happy that you have more than enough. That idea is rejected by some people. And some of you, you're listening to the series, it's like, I want to believe this, but I don't believe it. That God wants you to have plenty of money in the bank, have a year's salary saved up in case for a rainy day. Like, really? What is that? 2 Kings 7 verse 2.
The officer assisting the king said to the man of God, that couldn't happen even if the Lord opened the windows of heaven. But Elisha replied, you will see it happen with your own eyes, but you won't be able to eat any of it.
Okay, Elisha says, by this time tomorrow, God's going to change the economy and there's going to be plenty. You're going to be able to afford whatever you want. And he goes, no, I don't believe it. Not even if God gets involved can this happen. And you're not going to see it. You don't get it because that's what you believe. And the man said, no, there's too many reasons. You don't understand the economy. You don't understand. Not even God could change this. Not even God can give me plenty of leftovers. And God says, all right, you don't get it. And in East Timor, this is so true. One of the difficult things was to convince people that they serve the same God as the Aussies serve, because they view you as rich and they're poor, and that's just the way it is. And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. God is the same. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. There is more than enough, even in Timor. And a poverty mentality often involves the deep-seated belief that you will never have enough. It's a belief. It's a system of belief. Our rejection of the idea of abundance, it's often self-protective. If we say, oh yeah, I'm going to have some breakthrough, I'm going to pay off all my debt, I'm going to be wealthy by next year, and it doesn't happen, that's going to be embarrassing for you. You have to step out and ask for help. That's going to be embarrassing for you. You have to read books. That's going to be work for you. And so it's self-protective to say, no, I'm not going to believe God for that. Because you have to change your theology. We don't like the possibility of failure. That would be too disappointing. If I step into this and go, okay, I'm going to live this prosperous life and I'm going to get dominion over my finances, etc., that if it doesn't work, it's going to be bad. So in a weird way, it's safer to just stay the way I am. Not dead yet. I'll just function. But there is a principle here that you will have in life what you are willing to live with. You got to mark that down somewhere in your super phone or something. You will have in life what you are willing to settle for. If you're happy with the way you're at, that's what you'll have. Poverty is not simply, well, I was raised in a socially low socioeconomic area. Okay. There are truths of setback in the way you were raised. I understand that. But God doesn't talk about that. He has a plan of abundance. So here is the secret of this. Let's have Matthew 9:29.
Then he touched their eyes, saying, according to your faith, be it unto you.
Okay, so this is in regards to obviously a miracle. But the principle is very clear. According to your faith, that's what you'll get. God's not saying, but you were born into a such and such family. That culture, can't bless them. Right? Yeah, you started off low. Yeah. You were born with debt. Yeah, that's just the way it was. You know, you were cracking up the credit card when you were 2. So you say, that kind of person I can't possibly bless. No. He says, as a matter of fact, now it's actually got to do with your faith. One pastor is a pastor in the third world. He wrote this to me. He said, "Hi, Pastor, I hope you're doing right." I'm assuming that's all right. I'm doing right. This is English. He said, "I'm glad to tell you that since you came, our mind has changed. Me and my wife, I was always complaining that we don't have enough, which led us to deep poverty. We preferred third-hand clothes and being comfortable in poverty." See, it's a mindset. He said, "Now I invest in my wife and there is a joy in our home. You've changed our mentality in a fraction of a week. Now I know that poverty is spiritual more than physical, and I'm willing to be wealthy." That was last year. This year, he just texted me this week, said, "Now I'm budgeting to get a car." He didn't even dream about having a motorbike before. This man's likely to be in prosperity. He's certainly in his mind is living in prosperity. Judges 1:21 and 29.
But the people of Benjamin could not make the Jebusite people leave Jerusalem. Since that time, the Jebusites have lived with the Benjamites in Jerusalem.
Okay, stop there. They couldn't make the Jebusite people leave, so they lived with them. And that's what you're going to get. If you cannot get rid of poverty, you'll just live with it. Let's have verse 29.
The people of Ephraim did not force out all of the Canaanites living in Gezer. So the Canaanites continued to live in Gezer with the people of Ephraim.
Okay, some of you live with the geezer. No, that's bad. Sorry. Let's delete that joke. You know, there are people here that God promised them complete victory. Remember that? God says, "You will wipe them all out. You will have complete victory over the enemy." And some of them say it's too hard to cast them out. And they realize, we can live with this. And there are some Christians that you get to a certain point of victory and, hey, we're not dying, paying the bills, slowly paying off our debt. I can live with that. Okay? That's what you get. That's exactly what you'll get. You'll get with whatever you're willing to live for. Let's have Judges 1 verse 34.
The Amorites forced the Danites back into the mountains and would not let them come down to live in the plain.
Okay, so the Danites were the people of God. And in this case, the enemy forced the people of God to go into the mountains. The plains are a nice place to live. You are going to live in the mountains. And the people of the Danites said, "Hey, mountain living's good. We'll just live up here. We can put up with this." Okay, and that's what you put up with. That's what you get. You don't think God could have helped them wipe out the Amorites like he promised? Yeah, but it's hard, Pastor. Okay, then that's what you get. You get whatever you're willing to live with. And they were willing to live in the mountains, not to have any fighting anymore. You're not going to fight. You're not going to work this budget out. You're not going to deal with your spouse about this. You don't want to tell your kids I'll just live like this. Can't tell mum and dad, no, I'll just live. Okay, then that's what you live with. Live in the mountains. And that's what God was willing to let them settle with, whatever they were willing to settle for. 1 Samuel 13 verse 6.
When the men of Israel saw that they were in danger, for the people were distressed, then the people hid in caves, in thickets, in rocks and holes, and in the pits.
Okay, so this was not God's will. Like, this was against God's will, but God allowed it because that's what they were willing to accept. You want to live in a cave? Live in a cave. And there are Christians who are living in rocks, thickets, caves because that's what they're willing to accept. So this must be the will of God. No, I'm sorry. That is not the will of God. But God will love you. God will help you. God will care for you, but you won't have dominion. But that's okay. According to your faith, let it be. And so you can see the contrast. When you get to know people, Christians, you get to see the contrast between those who settle for defeat and the ones that live in victory. Right? Remember Saul and the army. Goliath comes out, dares them to fight. And 40 days and 40 nights. And did you get the impression that he wasn't stopping? Like after 36 days, 37 days, 38 days, twice a day. He's not just like going to stop at 40. He's teasing. He's pushing them down. And Saul and the thousands and thousands and thousands of other people that were there, they were just hiding when he came out, and they were willing to accept that. And for some people here, that's your giant. It's a giant of poverty, and to whatever degree you're willing to live with that, and okay, you're allowed to do that. It's not God's will. God wanted the giant killed. And David comes along and goes, why are we doing this? Doesn't anyone else know we can live in victory and prosperity and have dominion over this? I'm going to kill him. Okay, kill him. And he did. And that's what God wants. You can win a victory. And for some people, poverty is that giant. Some people, you argue about money way more than you should. Like money is a point of contention in your home. Some of you don't sleep well because of money. You don't have it, or you have too much of it, or whatever it is, you get a pay rise, it's like, you stay away. Like you actually don't sleep because of it. You struggle. You argue. I'm not good at maths, so I'm just going to have to stay. No. You don't have to be a genius to run a budget. You don't have to be super clever. You don't have to have a high IQ. That's why they created calculators and pens and paper. It's really not that hard. So, anyway, any questions? Let's open it up. Pastor Helg.
A number of times, or not to say a couple of times, people have said they have a poverty mentality, but they still give faithfully every week, but they don't see the results happening. Why would that be if they're not seeing God move in that situation?
Yeah, perfect. I'm preaching this morning on money. This is a double whammy. It's money all day. So, but the idea, and so what I'm preaching is accurate, is biblical and true. That money, but one of the reasons why is because people give, but don't activate that in any other way, like the way they speak. So they give, and then they speak to their children all the time about what they don't have, right? Or they are faithful. We're tithers. Remember when Rob Morris did A Blessed Life? He did a series called A Blessed Life, and he did the tithing one, right? And then he said, I should have done this one first, which was budgeting stewardship. So he talked about the blessed life in money, giving tithes and offerings, but didn't realize that people have got it backwards. You're supposed to. That's where I got my premise of when I taught living in prosperity. You must tithe, steward your money. Tithing is non-negotiable. That's payment to God. Then stewarding your money, and then with what is left, you choose how much you give as an offering, how much you pledge, etc., etc., etc. Your hairstyle, how much money you go on a holiday, upgrade your car, etc. Because we know that hair and nails are down the bottom of the to-do list, right? Okay, so I'm going to get crucified here today. So they are your lifestyle choices, and so part of your lifestyle choice is how much you give to God. So I know many, many people have got that backwards, that they tithe, they give an offering, and then they steward out of the rest. It's backwards. We don't give according to what we don't have. We give according to what we do have. You don't know what you do have until you've budgeted. So, but we should always give an offering. Even if it's $1, even if it's 10 cents, you should always give an offering. Because God says, in what way will you rob me? In tithes and offerings. Right? So I believe in always out of every pay packet giving my tithe and giving an offering. But how much that offering is depends on how much you have after you've taken care of your life. Right? I'm not talking about lifestyle. I'm talking about bills. I'm talking about obligations. So But the idea of that, Pastor, is very, very profound, that people have to understand that prosperity is not just tithing, right? Giving opens the windows of heaven 100%, right? But if you are speaking poverty, if you are raising your children in poverty, if you are thinking poverty, if it's an emotional problem, if it's a victim mentality, if it's an entitlement mentality, you can give all your tithes. You should give your tithes. But that's not it. Remember the Pharisees? They didn't have victory. And he says, you tithe of mint and anise and cumin, but you're missing the whole of life here, the Christian life, even though you're tithing. He goes, of course you should tithe, but you should not be missing the weightier matters. And so this is true for us. Many people stay in poverty not because they don't tithe, but because they don't, they think wrong. Remember, poverty is a mentality. David.
Pastor, what's a commensurate response like? It's
I don't know what that word means.
appropriate response to. Do you know what that one means? A response like when you get. I don't believe I have a poverty mindset, right? But maybe I do. But when you get a bill or unexpected things, I think last week you talked about when these things happen, and the first thing you think about is money, or you're not willing to spend things that are just going to be benefiting your life or something like that. Is it a poverty mentality when you're immediately aware of the impact it's going to have on your budget and things like that, and then you're like, well, I can't do it this week, but I'll do it next week or something like that? Or am I overanalyzing the idea of a poverty mentality?
Yeah, when you get a speeding fine and you kick yourself because it's $247 and you didn't really want to spend that on that, and now you've got to edit your budget so that you can fit that in, and it wants to make you slow down next time. I think that's the idea. That's the idea of a speeding fine. Not under a Labor government, but that's another subject. But not a political party here. So, to me, I don't think it's a poverty mentality to be vexed by losing money, right? Or vexed, but it's not going to make me lose sleep, right? I'm not going to lose sleep over a money subject. When I put my head on the pillow and it's time to sleep, I'm a child of God. I'm not going to die over this. I've got some savings, so it's a vex. I've got to be careful not to lose my driver's license. That would be a bigger vex than the money. But obviously, when you're running things tight as a budget, and then these things hit, then it's going to affect you. But I don't think you should swear. I don't think it should affect your salvation. I don't think it should affect your relationship with God. So I don't know if that answers the question fairly enough, but.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Brian. Who else had their hand up?
Jesus said, the poor you'll have with you always. Is there a difference between a poor person and someone living in poverty?
Oh, completely. Yes. But, you would call every single person in Timor poor, right? There are some millionaires there, but the majority of folks there you'd call poor, but they are not all of them living in poverty, in a spirit of poverty, because they've got victory. They pay their bills, they've got more than enough, they've got enough to bless people. So on their level, they've got more than enough. So poor then in that context is subjective. What does poor mean? Poor compared to us, but they're not living poor. They don't view themselves, the ones that get dominion, they don't view themselves as poor. They earn $150, $200, $300 a month, and they've got money left over at the end of the month to save, and they've got victory. They help people, bless people, take people out, pay their tithes, give a pledge. They live just like you and I, just on a different scale. So there are plenty of people who have less money but don't have poverty, and there are plenty of people who have lots of money. They have no clue how to live in victory. Money is a very emotional subject. Jad, and then Ben.
Pastor, regarding that point that you mentioned, if you're content with what you have, then that's what you'll get. But how would you look at a person when the Bible says to be content in what you have? Well, it says, as far as Paul said, as far as
I know how to be abased and I know how to abound.
Yeah, or in where is it? Not that I speak in regards to need, for I have learned in whatever state I am.
Yes.
To be content.
Yes. So spiritually, you're not going to backslide. You're not going to swear. You're not going to punch a hole in the wall because you don't have anything. I'm content. I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to come to prayer, and I'm content. I'm not going to. And then there's, I've said in Timor, there were some people that they didn't have transport and they didn't have extra money to get the transport to prayer, so they just walk an hour. They just walk an hour to come to prayer. In other words, they're going to prayer. In their relationship with God, there's a contentment whether or not they have money or don't have money. So poverty spirit or a prosperity spirit is not only about the quantity of money, but as time goes by, God sees fit to bless those people. It was so good this week. We saw one of the ladies in the Timor church driving. She's getting a license. Right, that is so rare. Right, in many places in the third world, it's so rare that the ladies will drive, but they're getting their license. So I'm cheering. They're not living in poverty. They're living in prosperity. Many of them. So it's not about. And then when you get a hit, when you take a hit, like a bad thing happens and another bad thing happens and another bad circumstantial things happen, it's like, well, I'm still content. In other words, if we have to eat noodles for a bit, it's circumstantial. It's just the way it is right now. We can't afford lots, so nope, don't buy the cheese. Let's just have bread and toast. Whatever it is. So that's the way I read that. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to die on this battlefield that I don't have money this week. I know how to be abased. I know how to be abound. But the point more is that might happen, but that's not. But God can turn it and give you plenty, and it's not evil. He adds no sorrow to that. So, very good, Ben.
Pastor, just talking about changing mentalities and what you said about the women driving in Timor. A couple of days ago, I heard a business owner speak about this, and it just blew my mind at the time. But it's almost exactly like the women driving. He was talking about his mindset changing when he was paying his workers. And he was talking about paying someone $500,000 a year or $1 million a year and how his mindset had to change. And that just blew my mind. I'm thinking like 80,000, 70,000. This guy's talking about $500,000 to $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So that change of mindset for me, that level of abundance is like crazy for me. But for the women there, I guess, driving for them, that's crazy for them to be able to drive.
And so knowing how to abound, if I earned 10 million a year, I'm not going to lose sleep. It's just a tool. It's just another zero. It doesn't affect whether I come to church. It might affect the type of car I drive to church. But it's not going to affect whether I come to church and whether I raise my hands and whether I worship God, whether I write a sermon. For me, it's not going to change anything. Just add a zero, take another zero, add 3 zeros. It's just money. It's just a tool. It doesn't affect my friendships. It doesn't affect the way I treat people, right? In other words, if you can understand that money is just a tool, right? A poverty mindset is, if you give me $1 million, then I will be able to go to church, be in outreach, don't have to work on Saturdays. I can function better. Wow. I didn't realize mammon was your God. Right? So if you have lots of money and mammon's your God, you can't serve God. If you have no money and mammon's your God, you can't serve God. So that's the point. So let's talk then about words of poverty. Because our lives are affected by our words, right? And I'm going to tread fine line here, but this is important. The Bible teaches us that words create things. Let's have Hebrews 11 verse 3.
By faith we understand that the words were framed by the
The
word
worlds.
of God. The worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible.
Very good. So the world or the worlds were framed or given their parameters. So the parameters or the outlines of creation were set, right? The earth has 12,756 kilometre diameter. God set it there, right? God spoke the parameter and gave it its diameter, right? So words frame things, give them, so whether you are large or small in your mind, in your finances, in your marriage, in your victory, has a lot to do with your words. And that can be positive or negative. You can speak big or you can speak small. Proverbs 18:21.
Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit.
We often talk about the first bit. Let's talk about the second bit. Those who love it will eat its fruit. You are eating today the fruit of what you spoke last year. The way you spoke to your children, the way you spoke to your spouse, the way you spoke to your bank manager, the way you spoke about your finances, that's the fruit. And that's true. It's true in marriage. It's in the past, you called each other stupid and fat and lazy and ugly. And today, why doesn't she love me? We just fell out of love. No, you're eating fruit. You're eating the fruit of what you planted, right? Which is why if you want an awesome marriage next year, plant the seed with your words, right? When you are speaking lots and lots and lots and lots of good, and that's why people have a great honeymoon. Because for weeks and months, they plant lots and lots of good seeds in their lives and the way they speak to each other. And then they get married and they're living in this love time. But what words are they speaking then? Oh, so I noticed that you do this. Right? And you start picking and you're picking, and then 6 months, 8 months, 12 months after the marriage, all of a sudden you've got this rotten fruit. And so you've got to plant correctly. But it's also true in money, right? If you're lazy in money, eat the fruit. And so that obviously can change. So if you speak words of wisdom, frugality at certain seasons, speak word like don't ignore it. So that's the other issue. Many people ignore it. We'll talk about that another time. You ignore your situation. Well, we just don't talk about that because it leads to too many fights. Well, where's that going? Because if you ignore that, it's not going to get better. We just think that we could, do some telepathy and both be on the same page. Has that worked for 30 years? Nope. It's not going to start working all of a sudden. You've got to use your words. But you can change the future. And so people struggling with ongoing poverty speak a poverty language or speak the language of poverty. They create negative, we could say, spiritual forces on May the 4th. They speak negativity. They create limits. We can't afford that. We're not going to be able to do it. That's not. Why don't you just be quiet? Do you have to say that? Ruby Payne, I told you, a lady that wrote a book about this. She said, you have to change your mindsets. You have to change your language because poverty has a language. Right? It never works for me. I can never get ahead. The game is rigged against, poor people. I'm just unlucky. So why would you say that? Is God dead? I wasn't born in that family. I don't have the skills that you have or they have. I don't have the education. I just couldn't get the education. I didn't have the same opportunities. My family has always been poor. So our words have the power to frame our prosperity, give limits to it. And so poverty is a spirit. It's not just maths. Numbers 14:28.
Say to them, as I live, says the Lord, just as you have spoken in my hearing, so I will do to you.
So as I live, just as you've spoken in my hearing, that's what I'll do. That's God's hearing. So you've spoken it, God says that's what I'll do. Right? This is what you're speaking to me, God says that's what I'm going to answer. But you're speaking, God, I don't have enough. That's the wrong phrase. God says, okay, you don't have enough. God, it's always going to be like this. It's always been like this. My parents have never had enough. We've always argued about money. It's like, okay, that's what you're getting. So we're not talking about just blab it and grab it. You know, it's like, I just need to speak it. It's all. But the idea of, first of all, stop speaking poverty. Right? God wanted to give the children of Israel victory and take Jericho. This is the big one, guys. We're going to take Jericho. You've been slaves. You've been talking about being on Centrelink. You've been slaves for the last hundreds of years. Now I want you to come out of slavery. So I'm going to give you a big gift called Jericho. It's going to be amazing for you. So I'm going to get you to walk around it because you need to get given a big gift. Right? So what was the first thing you told them to do? Don't talk. Because I know you're going to walk around and go, hey, Joe, there's some big walls there, man. What are we going to do? He goes, did you bring a ladder? I didn't bring a ladder. We don't even have any ladders in the camp. Well, what are we going to do? How are we going to get up the walls? I don't know. God says, no, you got to be quiet. You can never win if you just keep speaking about how bad it is. And so he goes, I want you to march around the walls and don't talk. No one's allowed to talk. Because you're all slaves and you all think like slaves. And if you look at the walls and you think like slaves, you're going to speak it and I don't want you to speak it. So I'm going to give you lesson number 1, don't talk. Isn't that very interesting? Like, why? He could have said anything, don't talk. Because our words curse us. Our words pull us down. I will get an inheritance and we'll probably just lose it anyway. Just your words. Let's have Psalm 78:41.
Yes, again and again they tempted God and limited the Holy One of Israel.
They limited God. Is that even a thing? How did they limit God? With their words. They said, we don't have any water again. Why not say, God, can you please give us water? No, just words. We've got no money again. The bank balance is running low. You got another fine, you stupid idiot. Words. And they limited the Holy One of Israel. God was limited. See, listen, the point you've got to take is God's not going to force you to be blessed. Right? God's not going to force you to get victory. He'll allow you to, and you can limit His power in your life because of the way that you speak. So then let's close with this thought of the law then of attraction. The law of attraction. Poverty involves a supernatural dimension. Why do people that are in poverty who have a job live in poverty year after 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 year? Many of them that I've seen have earned more money than I have their whole life, and they just still. We're planning on getting out of debt. We're planning on scraping some money together. And I always think, why? They've earned more money than I have their whole life. Why do people in poverty stay in poverty? Why is it that their car always breaks down? Listen, my car breaks down and I've got flat tires like you. Right? From time to time, we all get that. But do you ever notice that people that it's like that's their whole life? Their kids are always sick. They live in poverty all the time. Their car is always broken. It's always playing catch up. They never have enough to go the extra mile. Drama after drama after drama. And listen, some of these people, they're smarter than I am. So poverty is not an IQ issue. They're better at maths than me. They've got better education than me. They've done a university degree. They've got better opportunities. Poverty is supernatural. It's the law of attraction. Like attracts like. You understand magnets? You play with magnets? Magnets don't attract to wood. You ever tried that? Come on. All boys have tried that. Come on. Girls, I don't know what you do, but boys play with magnets, right? Like attracts like. Doesn't attract wood, rubber, copper. It attracts metal. Certain types of metal. So that's true in life. Money and poverty. Because of the power of faith and unbelief. You know, secular authors write about the power of attraction. And somehow it's a mental thing. You've got to convince your brain, etc. But God reveals it as faith. It's what you think. As a man thinks in his heart, that's what he is, right? So secular writers have grasped a hold of that and written libraries of books on it. But it's bigger than that. It's actually connecting who you are with who God is, right? Whatever you expect, you attract. Let's have Job 1 verse 4 and 5 in the NCV.
Job's sons took turn in holding feasts in their homes and invited their sisters to eat and drink with them. After a feast was over, Job would send and have them made clean. Early in the morning, Job would offer a burnt offering for each of them because he thought, my children may have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Job did this every time. Every time.
Every time the kids had a party, they might have sinned. They might have thought wrong. They might have thought, let's sacrifice. I'm scared that something bad is going to happen in my life. And it's constant. If there was one negative in Job's area of life, it was this. This constant speaking, something bad's they probably messed up. So I'm guaranteed my kids have messed up. I don't trust my kids, this is bad. And then in Job 3 verse 25.
Everything I feared and dreaded has happened to me.
Look at that. Everything I feared, that's what happened. I feared bad things and they did. So what do you think about all the time? Probably going to lose it all. Probably going to have no money. I'm probably going to live in poverty. I'm probably... Need to change the way you speak. John 5 verse 6 and 7.
When Jesus saw the man and knew that he had been sick for such a long time, Jesus asked him, do you want to be well? The sick man answered, Sir, there is no one to help me get into the pool when the water starts moving. While I am coming to the water, someone else gets in before me.
38 years, it's the same. Jesus said, so do you want to be healed? Like he's waiting for his words. And he goes, yeah, I can't help it. Like, it's my way I've always been. The system's rigged against crippled guys. It's like, it's rigged. So I always thought, why don't you sleep on the edge of the pool? Like if I was there, I'd be on the edge of the pool, day one. Day one, get my mate to take it in turns and he just bumps me in, as soon as the water. That's what I'd do. But he's living up in the porch. Like, you're living away from the pool, mate. And then you're blaming the crippled leg. You're living, but that's what we do. I'm just taking Centrelink. What can I possibly do to fix it? Not my fault I'm like this. It's the way my dad was. And that's what he says. It's just rigged every time. I got no choice. It's got no chance. I'm just like this. And Jesus is like, oh. He blamed the system, stayed the same. And so that's what he spoke. The moment he was asked about it, he's got a reason, an excuse. Everything stays the same. It's true in the area of money and poverty, right? Those who think poverty, expect poverty, talk poverty, and they trigger negative spiritual forces in their own life. They attract forces that affect their money. That's the way they speak. And how many times can the car get into an accident? How many times can bad things happen? You say, oh, the bad things happen in threes. Well, we're waiting for two more then. I hate that saying. Don't say that to me. Bad things don't happen in threes to me. They happen once, every now and again, and we take dominion. I wake up with a cold, with a sore throat. Some of you are like, well, where's the Tremadol or whatever they call it? Let me find some tablets. I'm going to be dead by Thursday. It's just, you're researching sore throat. It's, cancer. That's what it is. It's God. I wake up and go, I've got a sore throat. I need a drink. On with my life. Bad things don't happen in threes. Matthew 9:29.
Then touched he their eyes, saying, according to your faith be it unto you.
According to or in line with your faith. Okay, so that can be positive or negative. If you believe for blessing, you wake up assuming that God's going to help you and He's probably going to give you a miracle. A brother, I hope he doesn't mind, but Jordan came up to me last night, Pastor, I just got a pinch in my hand. Can you help me? And so let's pray. Prayed, healed. His mind was not, where's my wife? I need some Panadol. I need some medicine. I need an injection. I'll probably be in hospital by tonight. My hand's going to swell. I'm probably dead by tomorrow morning. He's like, there's a problem. Let's get a miracle. That was his mindset, right? And so maybe it's not always lack it's what you're accepting. It's what you believe for. It's what you're speaking. If you believe for poverty and reversal and struggle, that's what always comes to you. That's not just data. That's supernatural. And the doors open due, to curses, sin, disobedience, because of our expectation and unbelief. Let's have Galatians 6:7.
Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows.
So simply then, if you keep sowing thoughts and expectations and words of poverty, that's what you're going to have. And so let's open up. We have questions for a minute or two. Kenny here. Anyone else? Sydney.
So, Pastor, how do you differentiate from, I don't have enough versus I want more?
No, in other words, speaking, I'll never have enough, it's always like this, versus you do your sums and you give it to God in prayer and you be frugal and you be wise. The issue is what you believe for. So I think there's nothing wrong with understanding mathematically I don't have enough, but believing that that's the way it's going to stay or be like, or it's a pipe dream. So some people go, yeah, I hope that God really helps us here. So fix it. God will help you. And God wants to give you more than enough, but it's a mindset issue. It's good. Anyone else? Who did we say? Oh, sorry, Sydney.
I read a book before about a Christian lady. She described her childhood. She said, when I was little, I think we are rich. But in fact, they're not really rich because the parents are Christians and they always have money to give it to the poor. And also they always host missionaries back to their homeland. So this lady, she grew up in an environment, the parents are very thankful to God. And the parents' spiritual the wealth, that caused her to think in her childhood, even though they didn't have much, but she thought that they're rich because the parents is able to act and also to live out their faith in God. So make this child think that they're rich.
Yep.
So and also make her, as she grow up, she also become like a very good Christian as well.
Yes, and I think there's a lot to take out of that. Number one, they are rich. That there's a prosperity to their life of liberality and giving, and God probably, I guarantee you, God would have given them more and more as the time went by. There's a truth to that. The other side of it is what you tell your children. It's a huge thing. Parents that their children know their financial situation. The children stressed about whether they can pay bills in the home. Your children should not know that. They need to just assume that you're liberal and blessed, and even if you're eating noodles are fun. Add Smarties to noodles. Your kids won't complain. It's just they don't need to hear the woe stories. Anyway, Tony.
Pastor, just about the words you speak, I was just a question in terms of when you're praying for something financial miracle. I'll just give an example of, obviously I was praying for church building and asking God to bless church, like millions of dollars and all those things. What point it becomes ridiculous? Like, if I ask for $1 million, why can't I ask 10 million or 100 million? Is it, I genuinely want to have $10 million in the church bank account. So, like, do I pray specifically or get everyone in the church rich?
According to your faith, I don't know. According to your faith. It's not blab it and grab it, but it is how you believe. That's the difference. It's not, give me $1 trillion, 10 trillion, quadrillion. Sorry, what am I thinking? It's just, according to your faith, what are you believing God for? It's like our pioneer pastor called me and said, Pastor, someone just put $26,000 in our church bank account. What should I do? I said, say thank you, Jesus, and pray for another 26,000. And so he did. And the next day, someone put 26,000 again. So rather than say, just go good, now you can buy the air conditioners, now you can buy, right? So no, God can give you way more. And then he didn't call me back. And he didn't pray for another 26. And the next day it stopped. I don't know. I live on another planet to you, right? God has more than enough. Let's finish right there. We're going to start church at 10:30. God bless you.